Hi guys, welcome back to another video with me, Claudia Tumba, your teacher on the interweb. Today we're going to be talking about proofreading, and specifically how to proofread your own work. So let's take a look. I'm going to put up some images, 2 images to be precise, for about a minute. So I'm going to put one for 30 seconds and another one for 30 seconds. And I just want you to observe. Tell me what you observe. Alright, if you observe that there was actually a typo or mistake that is written twice, well done! You are correct. Did you see it? Now, I think I've read somewhere before that they said non-native speakers of English can usually pick up these kinds of mistakes more than native speakers. So did you get it right? How about the second one? Did you see that blue was written twice? Once in red and once in green? If you did, well done! You're amazing! But for me, when I did this, it took me a while. I didn't quite spot them. Okay, how about this next image? I'm gonna give you a minute to see if you can read it from beginning to end. Let's go. Alright, so were you able to read it? What does this prove, or what is the point that I'm trying to make? If you're able to read it and you feel great about yourself, good. But what does this actually show? If you're able to read it from beginning to end, like me, you're able to say, according to a research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter are in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Alright, so what this proves is that right now, my brain is actually predicting what the word is. It's not reading exactly what is on what is in front of me. It's predicting what the word should be based on what is in my mind, based on my own memory. So I should be struggling to read this if I was really paying attention to what is actually before me. And that can happen a lot, which is why for this one, for instance, here I found it hard to guess that the was repeated twice. It took me a long time. I even did it with my husband, and it took him a long time to figure out that. Actually, he didn't figure it out. He gave up in the end, and then I was like, "The" is written twice because his focus was over here. He was trying to find the mistake over here and not over here because of the different colors. And then here again, the colors do trick you. So different things like that show that the brain doesn't actually always focus on what it is seen exactly. So you may write a piece, or you may write a sentence, and you may not necessarily see the mistake because your brain is trained to kind of, you know, make your mistakes look a bit better, or forget about the mistakes. Read what you think it is instead of what it really is. So in order to be effective at proofreading, you need to train your brain to be able to see exactly what is on the page. Not what it thinks should be on the page, but what is written and where the mistakes are. You need to train your brain to be able to spot your own mistakes. So how can you do that? I'm going to give you 8 steps. I think it's 8 steps. Yeah, 8 steps. And then also some bonus tips and advice. So let's go. First is run a spell check. Run a spell check. That is basic, but do not stop there. So let me show you. How does that work? So here on Word, I think it used to be spell check, but I think now it's editor. And it's telling me there are some spellings. So let's just go back. Here in corrections, it's got spelling, grammar, and then I guess it's got also Korean word issues. So spelling, already I can see that there are spelling mistakes by the words underlined in red. If you're one of my students, okay, you see a word underlined in red in Word and it's in English, click on it and change it, you know, change it, make the correction. Don't leave it there. The red lines are not for you to leave it there. They're for you to click and change them. And you can just do this by right clicking and then clicking on the right word. When you see the lines in blue, usually it's like a format issue. You can just put a little grammar there. So a little punctuation. So please, the first thing that you do after you finish writing your work, make sure that you go into editor in Word, in the newer version in Word, and then check for those corrections that they have suggested. Here, what should it be? He waited for the food. So sometimes you have to read the sentence because here the options are not correct here. So he waited for the full moon to rise. Okay, brilliant. So that's the first step. Run a spell check. Look out for punctuation errors. Sometimes you will also have a green line, which is grammatical errors, and then red line is for spelling errors. Run that spell check to get rid of all those little mistakes here and there. But do not stop there, because as you've just seen, sometimes the computer won't pick out the right word. Sometimes it won't always see every single thing, and you have to read it out. You have to do some more things. So what is the next step? The next step is copy and paste or upload your work into Grammarly. And if you don't know what Grammarly is, it's how would I explain it? It's a grammar checker online. You can also download it onto your computer, and you can pay for it to get the premium level, which the premium level actually helps to do a better job. So this is what it looks like. This is the free version. So in the free version, it tells you what types of mistakes there are, but it doesn't actually give you the suggestions. It just tells you how many mistakes you have and what type they are. So you kind of have to look at each one, make the corrections in order for it to change. Maybe let me see, it says passive. I think that is because it's passive. You are expected to come. It should be more active. Whether online or offline, is that wordy sentence? Maybe this is wordy sentence. So when it's a free version, you kind of have to guess what the mistakes are and try and make the corrections to see. Maybe let me see, if I put a comma there, would it go away? Yeah, so that was a punctuation error. Most importantly, don't forget to have fun. If you are caught, that punctuation, using your phone. No, it's not. So you play around with it based on their suggestions until you get the right answer. Now, The free version is a bit annoying because you don't always know. Not every time. Sometimes you do know it's obvious. It could be a spelling mistake. It could be, a comma mistake. It could just sound wrong, but you don't always know. So another thing that you can do is you can copy and paste it into Hemingway, right? And Hemingway will give you similarly to Grammarly, but it gives you indications of what is wrong. Now, the only downside to Hemingway, great that it's free, but the only downside is that it wants you to write really short, simple sentences, which is sometimes good, but it's not always the best way. But I do like it. If you're not going to pay for Grammarly, maybe using Hemingway will be better, because then it lets you know. It gives you a little bit more advice. And again, you can download it onto your computer as a desktop app. So that's two great ways to get in some extra checking using the interweb. Okay, so what's next? Next is take a break, right? There was an old commercial from Kit Kat which was have a break, have a Kit Kat. It's really, really important not to continue working on your work over and over and over again. Once you finish writing, you've done your spell check, you've done either Grammarly or Hemingway, take a break. It will be really good if you can take a break for like a whole week or for some months, if you have that luxury of time. If not, 1 or 2 hours, even 30 minutes is good for you. So take a break, go away, do something fun, something relaxing. And then what should you do? When you're ready to come back, print out your work. Don't continue to work on your computer. Print it out. And here are some extra steps that you can do. You can change the font. So what we're trying to do with our brains is we're trying to make sure that our brain focuses on what is there, not what we think is there. So use different fonts that you're not used to using, that you're not used to seeing. Make the writing larger. And then also give it a different color. You can give it blue or red. Just change the color up. Again, so that your brain focuses on what it sees and not what it thinks should be there. So those are some helpful tips. Change the font and the size of your work before printing, or if you're going to use it on the computer, is get a reading overlay or reading ruler or just a piece of plain paper. What you want to do is focus on each line individually. Do not you can do chunks if it works better that way, but whole paragraphs, break it down into either individual lines or just 2 sentences. Look at smaller texts as you go along. Now, a lot of people at CNUE in the 4th year, they know about this tool, because when you have to memorize long chunks, I see everyone in Starbucks with all these, brightly colored rulers or little pieces of paper, and then they just keep focusing on 1 line per line. You should do this when you're proofreading as well. So get yourself one of these from now. Don't wait until the 4th year. Read it from front to back. Now, usually when we read something, we read, "Then she went out to the yard and danced softly." But when you're doing the proofreading method, you can either start from here right at the end, or you can start from here, but you can go softly danced and yard the 2 out went she then. When you're checking for spelling mistakes, when you're wanting to know that it just makes sense, you can just read it from the last line. "He begged, but the fairy disappeared into the clouds with her children. Honey, where are you leaving me? Please don't go." Can you hear it? Honey, where are you leaving me? Should be, honey, why are you leaving me, right? Caught that already. At that moment, the fairy suddenly began to soar with their children. The woodcutter spaced out by beauty of the fairy. Then she went out to the yard and danced softly. So reading it from the last line up, it changes what you're reading. It's no longer making sense because you're just reading random lines, and therefore you can spot the mistakes a lot better. Now, if you're really wanting to be careful, you can even go word by word. Children, there, with, clouds, the, into, disappeared, fairy. And some professional proofreaders even go by syllable. Ren, child, there, with, clouds, the, to, in, so that they can be able to spot those mistakes. So doing a backward method, it's really good for your brain, and it's really good for spotting the mistakes that you would not normally see if you just read it normally going forwards. Okay, what's next? Number 7 is read it out loud. All right, I see a lot of my students, whenever they have any writing, and they're just like, doesn't help. Read it out loud, right? Find a space for yourself and read your work out loud. Again, it will help you to hear those mistakes. If you can't read it out loud, maybe you're in the library or somewhere like that, then use the dictate, not dictate on your phone, sorry. Go to review and read aloud.
Then she went out to the yard and danced softly, the woodcutter spaced out by a beauty of the fairy. At that moment, the fairy suddenly began to soar with their children. Honey, why are you leaving me? Please don't go, he begged, but the fairy disappeared into the clouds with their children.
Right, doing it this way again, you can pick up stuff. And what was interesting was that this sounds like spaced out by a, it sounds like the but it's the wrong spelling. So in hearing it, he says it right, but in me seeing it, I pick up that, you know, maybe it should be an A. So you can use that read aloud function in Word over here to help you. Okay, what's next? This is the last step, and that is give it to a friend. And this is one of my great friends, Kay. She's the Bright Light VA personal assistant. Virtual assistant. So you can check out her Instagram page for that, give her some support. But when I was in university, she was always somebody that I would always send my work to help me check it and proofread it, because she was really good. She had a really good eye to pick out mistakes. She's really good with her words and just making sentences sound professional, sound clear, sound really good. So choose a reliable friend, send your work or give your work to your friend to have them check it out. If they can check it out also on paper, it will be good. If they are using if they are using their laptop or computers to check your work, get them to change the font and color so that their brains can also focus in on what they see. So those are the 8 pieces of advice that I would give to you. Run spell check, do Grammarly, take a break. What was the other ones? Take a break, print out your work, get a reading overlay or reading ruler, or a piece of paper. If you can't afford any of these things, or it's hard to get them, get a normal ruler or just something that helps you focus on line by line, and then read it from back to front, read it aloud, give it to a friend. And by doing all of those steps, hopefully you will be able to catch most of the mistakes. Sometimes it won't be perfect. Even me, when I look at some newspapers or some things online, you still see big, big companies make little mistakes, like they miss out an A or a the, or there's a wrong punctuation or something is missing. So we can't catch everything all the time, but through these steps you can definitely have better quality of work. So let's take a look at some bonus tips and advices. Make sure that you form a habit of noting your common mistakes. For example, with me, commas are not my thing. I can never, as hard as I try, I always need to go back to the rules of how to use commas. Certain punctuation in English, it's not my thing. I need help. So making sure that I know that that's something I need to look out for is good. So whatever mistakes you frequently come across on, make sure that you note them down so that they can become your own checklist. If you're not sure about how something is used in English, how a punctuation is used in English, or spelling or something like that, or a grammar point, check out YouTube. YouTube is great for learning about everything. So refresh your memory, refresh yourself with some YouTube tutorials. Use a grammar guidebook. Get a good dictionary, especially when it comes to spelling and using of the word and meaning. Checking it in the dictionary is really helpful. And then always refer to and update your checklist as you go along. Maybe down the line you see that you no longer have a comma problem, then you can take it off, right? And you can add on new things that you're now having troubles with. Because as you do this, the more often you do this, the better you get at it. And then one major thing that I was told when I started my first professional job as a paralegal, it was that your work represents you as a person. So if your writing is sloppish, slack, there's mistakes all over the place, and you're not checking it, it represents you as a person. It really shows something about you. So how do you want to be represented? Professional, clear, well written? Then take the time to check your work. Things to look out for if you are a Korean speaker learning English are capital letters, articles, a, and the. Make sure, go on YouTube, get a refresher course on how to use articles. Punctuation, because I don't see, although most people use punctuation correctly, they don't use enough of them. Subject verb agreement, because there's always mistakes with that. Verb consistencies, keeping to the correct tense. And then possessive pronouns, sometimes they're left out. So make sure that you have these on your list, unless 100% you don't make mistakes with that. Alright, and here are some keyboard shortcuts that will help you out a lot. I'm sure you know a lot of them, like Control A, Control Home. I think for Mac users it will be Command. But one of the great things that you can do to run a spelling or grammar checker, press F7. To find a certain word, you can do Control Find or Command Find. I think it's Command Find. Let me not give you that, but I might post what it is for Macs. To replace, this was a function that I always forget that it's there, but you can replace all the same. For example, you want to replace Miss to Mrs. You can do Control H and then replace that word in the whole document rather than go through each of the things and change them one by one. You can just do the whole document. And then you've got some other ones there as well. So enjoy, check your work, proofread your work. So I'm gonna be really expecting you guys to hit a good standard in your writing by following these advices as well, and I'm going to keep on reminding you about them as well. I think that's all for today's PPT. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you take this advice seriously and improve your proofreading. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, all that great stuff, and I shall see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.